Welcome to Feral Chats. Oh my gosh.
Hi, friends.
Hello.
Hello. Oh my goodness. Where do we even, I mean, we won't dive in just yet, but can we just talk about all this craziness that's been happening since we last chatted?
Yeah. I'm sorry. My whole brain is only on the session that we had last night and all the things that from it. But I will say, I was really looking forward to the eclipse kind of being this like refreshing energy afterwards. And it very much has not been that. And I appreciate my spiritual people helping me understand why. Because I was like, I was expecting Tuesday morning to just wake up refreshed and like good to go. And like, it's been a lot of still convoluted stuff kind of having to clear out. Yeah. So for those listening, if you're also feeling that way too, not surprising.
Oh my gosh. No, let's be real though. Like, I think we all had this perception for those of us who are in the path of totality. We're like, it's going to be so magical and newness, and we're going to be so rejuvenated. And then the aftermath of the effects of the eclipse felt as if we got extremely hungover.
Yeah.
And just got our
Yes.
That's a really good way of describing it. I felt like time stood still. Like Monday just slowed down for me. Did anyone else experience that? Yeah. We had like 85-90% in Maryland where I am totality. It was really eerie out. Like the birds were going nuts and bees, but like any wildlife that was in my backyard was their very frenetic energy, especially during that peak. I made sure to give extra love to my cats because they love sunbathing and they were kind of freaking out going from room to room looking for their sunshine. It's like, it'll be okay. It's coming back. Monday was great. Monday slept well, but like Molly said, Tuesday, I was like, what just happened? It felt like I lived a whole week in like that 6 hours sleep. It was bizarre.
Yeah. I fully agree with that. I was feeling super sluggish, and thankfully with the healing session I did with you, Kale, and then I just had acupuncture today, and then I also took a nap, and I'm like just now slightly feeling better. I'm like, okay, I think I'm recalibrating, and that's with a lot of privilege. That's with a lot of self-care. So I'm like, I can only imagine everybody else. So rest, hydrate, friends, rest and hydrate, because that's the best way we can handle it. Yeah.
Yeah. It was so bizarre too, because it was amazing seeing the double diamond around the sun and everything. But I just keep going back to the fact that we all had this different ideology of like how we would feel. And we all came out of it just like, what happened? Where was this? I thought this was going to be a good thing. But the thing is too, there's two parts. One, we haven't really, so energy works so peculiar because the after effects of the eclipse still haven't technically arrived in the tangible, in our vicinity, in our like aspect of reality. So we have that for us. We haven't really felt we feel like the direct, like with the energies, with the moon and that change. Yeah, we feel it. But then, so we have what hasn't caught up with this realm. And then the Schumann has been off its Richter. There's been so many little black lines in the Schumann that have been like, oh, a timeline jump. Oh, timeline change. So I'm just like, is nothing sacred anymore? Because obviously is not.
That's funny. I didn't realize that the Schumann was doing that. So that's not totally surprising why physically we're all feeling pretty exhausted. So yeah.
Yes.
That's really interesting. So I've had like interesting bursts of like energy, like so much so that I'm like, I need to go run, I need to go work out, or I need to get it up and out. And then like this really bizarre crash where I'm like, oh, I just need to go meditate or lay down for an hour. And which is not normal for me. Like I have ups and downs, but they're not at such extremes.
That's funny, huh? Someone had said that the eclipse was going to be like labor and like birth, and so I was kind of expecting all that tension to then release, but much like labor, much like birth, much like actually bringing a new life into the world, it's not clean and it's not easier now, right? Like there's new energy to work with, and we also have to do some cleanup. And so I'm like, oh, okay, I guess that metaphor was even more apt than I expected. I wonder if that's your recalibration, Kiki, the ups and the downs.
And with it, emotional too, not just energetically, like really happy and joyful and high, and then just like crying out of nowhere, like tears
Mm,
just coming. And I was like, okay, these quantum shifts, like,
yeah.
is this, am I feeling this from the collective? Are these mine? Like, I've really been
Mm,
sifting and sorting like origin points.
yeah. Yeah. You're the second person today to tell me that like lots of tears around the eclipse. I'm honestly not even tracking for myself personally because I feel like I cry a few times a day just to have some emotional release. So I don't
That's so
know.
healthy. I love it. I'm also a Pisces, and like it was the Pisces lunar eclipse, so then I'm a water baby. So I mean, I do
Yeah.
cry at like animals and puppies and like all those movies that are tear jerkers, but like this is way more intense.
Yeah.
And like a lot of time, I'm an empath too. So when I do like Akashic record or Celtic Reiki, a lot of times I'll feel emotions that are being passed through and released. So like I'll start sobbing or crying, or I'll have that closed throat. But in those instances, I know the frequency and it's not mine. This is
Mhm.
very blurred. It's
Yeah.
been hard for me to discern, is this mine? Is this
Mm,
others? Is it all of the above?
mm. I think that's a really good way to put it. I've just been saying that I've been feeling very sluggish. Like I felt like my energy was very like weighted down, but also like not flowing in a way. And but I haven't really been having things happen that would make that happen. It's not that I was eating bad. It's not that I haven't been sleeping. It's not that I have relationships or situations that would make me feel that way, you know? So blurred is a very apt way to put it because I also pick up stuff from the collective and kind of people around. And so that's interesting that it might actually kind of be a little bit more of like a melded situation.
Yeah, I think it is a melded situation with all the energies happening right now within the collective because there's so many shared experiences that folks are recounting or talking about where there's a lot of emotion, there's a lot of loose ends that need to be tied up and kind of like there's so many facets to individual growth where like I've been saying for quite a while, like watching the eclipse and stuff and sensing the energies that it literally is the time where it's like enough is enough. You have to be able to release, to create a reprieve, and then be able to transcend into your next step of your journey. So I feel this eclipse energy is very much this is the now and you're here, but you have to be able to take that next step into your transmogrification. You have to be willing to finally give closure to things that perhaps an individual has been running from for so long, or perhaps they're finally coming home to themselves and their authenticity. And this is like the next step of embracing that aspect.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One thing that has been a theme for me and Kale, we talked about this yesterday. I was doing a meditation specifically with the eclipse with the idea of releasing what no longer serves me. And coming from our conversation last week about sort of not necessarily cords at the time, right? But sort of cord cutting and kind of having intentionality with your energy and your sphere. I've always had this one person where it's been really hard for me to figure out how to cut the cord. And I was doing a really intensive, honestly, what it was me in the bathtub working on psychically breaking down this sort of chain that was connecting us. And then once it was disintegrated, seeing the two of us sit down at a table and draw up new sacred contracts is really what it actually like played out to be. And as we were working on that, and as that finished, I then got out of the bathtub, and my friend had texted me just out of the blue a cord cutting like ritual, like statement, you know, what to use. And I was like, well, that is apt, and we are in sync for sure. And so I feel like that's just even more of this like transmutation in a way from what you were before to what you're going on to now is all those cord cuttings and really defining, like we talked about last week, who is within your energy circle and like where you put that energy and who you allow in. And I was way more I guess like direct with this sort of like action than I was, and productive with it than I've been able to be before. And so that felt really nice. Like I kind of felt like a shift in actually being able to make some changes with that connection, you know?
Mm-hmm.
That's
Do we
awesome.
want to pull? Do we want to do a little collective read? You got your card. I know you got your card somewhere.
Go ahead.
Who wants to go first?
You want to go, Kiki?
Oh, what do the cards say? So I have the Oracle of the Dragon Fae.
I was just about to say I'm obsessed with your dragon necklace. Is it because we're getting into dragons today?
So this I had custom made almost a year ago. It's Shattuckite, and this is a water dragon, and it has the symbol for water on the back from my dragon Reiki training. And I found this stone. I didn't know what it was going to be, but I had a jeweler design this dragon after I met my water dragon. And so I usually wear this when I channel for dragon Reiki. And I was like, oh, we're talking about dragons. I'll wear it.
Oh my gosh, I love that. I can't wait to hear more about that. I will ask more questions. Okay.
Okay.
Yes.
But to the cards, what does the cards have in store for the collective? Aini and the Guardian, born innocent.
Slightly up because your title is slightly covering it. There we go. Okay.
Oh, how's this? So we have the number 12, which adds up to 3.
Mm-hmm.
So what comes up for you when you see this image? I always like to ask people, when you see the whole card.
Ooh, the dragon in the background.
Mm.
Is there 2 dragons? I'm trying to see the card. Is there like a creature next to her in the
There is
dragon in the
one
background?
dragon. There's
With
a dark
tail.
purple dragon with a tail and a golden horn. And the Fae has her wings on her head, and she's holding a glowing orb that could be the sun, could be a ball of fire or lava.
Yeah.
So the Guardian. Michelle
Yeah.
says she loves her winged hair.
Yes.
I do too. I love the wings on the head. The fire in the palm is what I often see. Throw a little more yellow into that, and that's what I see as solar plexuses all the time.
Yeah.
So love to work with little solar orbs, that's for sure. I also was paying attention to the like mane of the dragon, and I couldn't tell if it was sticky or like webbed, and it looks like it's a little bit of both.
It does, and it almost I want to say like the Hun, where it has like the leather straps around the hair.
Yeah.
And then she also has a Triskel blue tattoo on her shoulder. So the Celts are coming through.
Oh, cool. Oh,
So
cool.
Yeah.
Whoa. His hair and then the horn, that's definitely a powerful being. That's cool.
I mean, protection, guarding your power and your energy is coming through really heavily for me.
Yeah. That's
but
cool.
yeah, standing in your power and authenticity, which seems to be a good theme for us.
Yeah.
But yeah, I love this deck.
That's a very cool deck.
Born innocent.
Yeah. Are you gonna read the definition, or who's the person? Who's Aini?
I don't know.
Okay.
Is it Aini?
I
or
feel
is
like
it
it's AINE.
Ain?
I don't know.
I don't know.
I don't know either. I feel like she's one of the Celtic gods, or she could be a fae.
Is she?
So protection, I like that, and dragon protection especially.
Yeah.
Very.
I can definitely. There's a Aine is a
she's
dragon fae.
the goddess of sovereignty.
Yeah.
This
one, like each one of these has like 2.5, 3 pages. So it's, I can definitely read if you want. So it has what she says. It has a whole page about her divinatory meeting and then working with her specifically.
Cool. Will you like take a picture of it? We can maybe post it on Facebook later.
Oh, yeah, I can take a picture of all of it and then I can share it in the comments. Is that cool?
Okay.
Or send
Awesome.
it to Gail and you can do a post.
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, whatever you want to do, that sounds great.
I love that.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's what I mean. We're talking about being grounded in your power, and she's the goddess of sovereignty. So like, that's some heavy correlation right now with Celtic mythology.
Yeah. So I'll read the first few. Here I stand, offering to you the protection and safety of my guardian being, wanting you to know how very protected you truly are. Never need you fear again those who have done you harm. This is over. and never again will disrespect and tyranny blight your path and light.
Chills down the back. I just got chills down the back, and your video also cut out for a split second. So I feel like that was like a lot of energy. So that was very interesting.
There's a lot of energy already happening. We were not even channeling before this, and we're already feeling it. Now, like, my spine is on fire. So
I'm melting over here. No.
Oh, Aaron asked who the goddess is. It's Aini or Ain. Is the goddess
I can look up.
sovereignty.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's also like fall. I had it up earlier. I think it's also fall or harvest.
Yeah.
Sovereignty is such an interesting theme, though, you know? And
yeah. Summer, wealth, and sovereignty.
Ooh, summer, wealth, and sovereignty. I'm here for that as we are going from the summer. Let's claim that.
Let's go.
Oh, I love that.
That's perfectly apt timing.
This is great. Yeah, authenticity, sexual expression, shining your light, sharing your beauty with the world. There's a lot.
We love that.
Oh, St. Patrick falsely believed that he had exorcised her. This is juicy.
Oh, that is right.
Yes. Okay.
And it all comes
circling back.
It all comes full Catholic circle.
From last.
Oh, that's awesome.
She was the main goddess that they were trying to rid. I totally forgot it was her, because sometimes in the text they don't always talk about it. They just say they were trying to annex the main goddess of Celtic mythology or of the Celtic worship. And Ain or Ain is not always referenced as heavily.
No, she gets buried and forgotten, but not anymore.
No. Not anymore, not anymore. That's awesome. So we were going to talk about St. Patrick last week. I almost said last year because it feels like that. So what is can you all share a little bit more? Tell me a little bit more about what you were maybe going to share, and also the tie-in with Aini.
Yeah. Kiki, you want to take a
stab at it? From what I understand, what Adara was sharing, St. Patrick cleared Ireland, the UK, of snakes, but the snakes were really the pagans and the witches. And then he was also made a saint because of that.
He never fully became a saint. Rome does not and still will not recognize St. Patrick as being a saint. So the title is misinformed, because he was never ever formally recognized by Rome itself as being a saint. Which is fascinating too, because we talk about, St. Patrick, oh my gosh, but it's like, no.
Yeah.
And he was known to wear blue, the green, as St. Patrick's Day, and it became very secular, and like green beer and dye in the river green is all more of American commercialization.
That's funny. Because Ireland is so green, so we're like, oh, you came from Ireland, so therefore we're going to wear green.
Or the rolling hills are green and the clovers, and
right.
I have no idea.
Yeah.
I know Scotland's more prevalent with the heather, and we work with the heather in the Celtic Reiki. So
that's cool. Oh my gosh, that's beautiful. Awesome. I'm excited to read that card for her.
Here's the interesting thing too, if we're still on this tangent, is because it was only in the 19th century where Irish nationalist groups then used and created the equivalent of including the shamrock as the emblem for that morphed into the representation of Ireland itself. So like there was no prior connotation of the shamrock being used as a representative. So that was still very new. But like the earliest, if I recall, like the earliest written mention of the shamrock itself wasn't until 1571. So like the 1571 predates St. Patrick's alleged use of the shamrock by over a millennia.
And does it say why it came into use? Because up to that point, it was the Triskelion and the trickle. Like 3 is very big in all things Celtic, pagan, and Druidic. Like they have 3
Yes.
levels: lower, mid, and upper world,
Right.
birth, death, rebirth.
I wonder if it's
Well,
the same, like, forgive my word, but like bastardization, right? And like kind of more of, so much about controlling people through religion is like getting things just a little bit off so that you can kind
Right.
of, like shift the energy of it. So
That
there's
was my feeling.
commercialism too, because when you think about it and all of this happening, yeah, the Triskelion and the Shamrock, they've been depicted in different ways and forms, but I think that the adaptation of the Shamrock itself was perhaps just an easier symbol that people could, an easier symbol that people can resonate with, but became so heavily utilized that the clover, the Irish Shamrock, became something easy as an insignia. Because when you think of every holiday, think of Valentine's Day, we use the heart, right? So like with Yule, we traditionally have the Yule log. For like the whole Christmas, you have the Christmas tree. And for Halloween or Samhain, you have pumpkins are a huge thing. So I feel like in the way of commercialism, the Shamrock was the easier between the Triskelion, and then you had, of course, the Shamrock and the adaptation of a symbol that can be easily utilized as some sort of icon, so to speak.
Well, it also doesn't, but to Molly's point, it has no religious or pagan or Druid.
Correct.
It could be considered Druidic because it is natural and it is from the earth, but like they were really trying, I feel like, strongly separate, like, this is just a symbol, it's over here, it has nothing to do with your belief system, like trying to take power away.
Yes.
Right.
A million%.
Yeah.
I do think there's something really interesting in like the original symbols. Looking at them, people can clearly evoke, right, what it is that it's trying to represent: water, connection, whatever it is, right? And so, taking away those things that if you were not necessarily being brought into church or brought into a specific religion, you would still be able to see these sort of other things that would allow you to tap into your own spirituality. And removing those, right, means that there's no more tools to allow people to do that themselves. They then have to go elsewhere to figure it out. So not totally surprising.
Yeah.
Exactly. Let's bring the divine feminine back in, come on. Yeah.
Yes. Let mama come home and get all this shit corrected. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Kale, are you going to do a reading? And you want to do a reading?
I will do a reading. I already picked a rune, and of course it's the one that I thought was going to come up, and it came out reverse. So we're in for a little bit of a ride right now, apparently. So this is Wunjo. That is joy. So that usually would mean hope, harmony, fellowship. I hate where it talks about perfection because there's no real perfection isn't real. This also goes into friendship, kindredness. So this rune's kind of coinage is be careful what you wish for. And it also talks about great minds think alike, though fools seldom differ. So the fact that this came up in reverse is going to be, this could be feeling stagnant. This could be strife. This could be alienation, a worm of caution, blindness to danger. So we're going to kind of read this in a different way. So the Wunjo itself is a very interesting rune because it talks about when it's upright, it's our harmonious energies that we find in functionality, in our groups, in our who we socialize with, and theoretically what a healthy society should be about, and ultimately the world or this realm. So we usually talk about this in the way that where love is the aspect or remedy of curing the warrior who has hate in their heart. But we also have to recognize that sometimes what we carry within our hearts, we have to, and it really goes back, the central theme of most of my readings post-eclipse have been allowing yourself to feel your own emotions and recognizing them, because it's time that we stop hiding them, that we stop blockading them, and we have to acknowledge everything that we feel. So when Pedro comes up like this, or Pedro, why is that in my mind? When Wunjo comes up like this, it really talks about we have to be able to, when we feel alienated, sometimes, what am I trying to say? Let me grab one of my stones real quick. I'm actually, I got another iolite stone. I'll grab this. When we feel alienated, it is not because we are unworthy, or it's not because we're doing something wrong. There's something that constantly resonates within our soul and within our own essence of vibration and our higher self that notes something more that we are not picking up on. And when that feeling of alienation, or perhaps a feeling of resonating with individuals happen, sometimes we have to be able to understand and truly decipher what that means. Now, is that because of our mistrust? Is that because we feel as if there's something not aligning, or there's something not resonating, or we feel misplaced? We have to be very careful in looking for the subtle signs that our body gives us. And what does that look like? That could be feeling lightheaded. That could be feeling dizzy. That could be we energetically feel depleted. That could be that there's something amiss. You know, we talked about understanding and allocating our energy where it best suits us, and being very mindful of who we allow within our circle. But this also talks about in recognizing that when you feel disaligned, or you perhaps don't have, there's this feeling that is like almost clawing at the back of your mind or at the back of your consciousness about something, you have to be bold enough to listen to what your body is talking about and what it's trying to provoke within you to bring to your attention. This also goes into with Wunjo, this is also falling into the law of attraction, to where and I have different mixed feelings about when it comes to the law of attraction, because I think there's a myriad of different things that we don't consider. But initially, I'll go off that tangent. Initially, it talks about that when we notice that something is amiss and that it is not in our best interest, or we feel that something is not correct for us, whether that's a person, people, place, thing, situation, you have to be bold enough to listen to your instincts. We are animals. We have an inherent instinct. So it talks about putting yourself first. Put yourself first. Acknowledge your emotions. Acknowledge the sensations that your bodies are giving you, because right now this is a high time to be able to reach your own self-awareness and to create what you're searching for. You know, our fate lives within us, and to follow suit in your fate, you have to be able to recognize and be brave enough to step away when you feel no longer within that space.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. It's not to be a downer, but it's
trust instincts, and don't, and find the ways. I just stuttered. Oh my gosh, that's interesting. So find the ways in which fear isn't driving, right, your choice of like protection and self-preservation, right? So if you're feeling like you're not in alignment with something, recognize that that's telling you a sign, and don't just kind of like keep going with it, because that little niggling feeling is not going to go away.
Yeah.
Well, I would say what dropped in for me was stop numbing, whatever that might be for me or you, or whether that's workaholic, or, getting on the hamster wheel and staying busy to avoid what's really going on. It could be alcohol, you name it. It doesn't have good or bad. There's no judgment. It's just, you got to take away all that so you can really hear what's going on and feel like it could be simple as taking Advil. If you have a pain somewhere that's not for a reason, out of nowhere, your body's trying to send you a signal. Are those trapped emotions? Is something coming? Like, I've been paying a lot more attention and dropping into my body a lot more. And the silence can be scary, right? But it helps block out all the noise that isn't you, your higher self, your guides, and it really clears the message. And no, we might not like what we hear, but it's in those messages we need to hear that the real work can take place, and that's where the growth happens.
Yeah. Beautiful.
Yeah.
I feel like that's a theme that I've been working on for quite a while, and helping other people work on too, is not to just like numb yourself not to numb yourself from your emotions, and especially not numbing yourself from like the harder ones, because you can recover from them, but figuring out a way to face those feelings, especially like the more difficult ones of like grief or shame or guilt or fear, right? Like those are really scary sometimes to go face head on, so.
Yeah.
And I think it talks about understanding, and this has been another big thing too, is understanding your energy. I've been tapping in way more. I've been putting myself like doing random sessions or clearings. And the thing is though, it's like when you get to understand your own energy, what that feels like, how that projects, you understand the nuances of when your energy changes in a snap. So like this morning, getting ready for work, driving there, easy drive. As soon as I pulled in to where I was supposed to be for the day, my energy shifted. And I was like, ooh, I grounded while I was driving and I was doing everything I needed to, but it literally changed and I tapped in. I'm like, what is this? I'm like, oh, you have something now attached to you. And I don't say that as a fear mongering. I say that as everything is a lesson. And it doesn't mean that I was messing up in somehow. It doesn't mean that I was doing something wrong. It's just, the thing is, when we are in this energetic world and this human experience, that we're not infallible. We have things that will come and make itself known, and that's teaching us. And for me, that was a teachable moment of, now I understand, as soon as my thought pattern changes, or as soon as I can feel something shift, or my own like self-awareness drops off. And I was right too. I had something that kind of latched on me. It's like, this is a good thing, and I think in the spiritual community, we have so many people who beat the shit out of themselves because they get an attachment, because they, whether doesn't matter what level is, doesn't matter if it's a creature, doesn't matter what it is. We're so hard on ourselves when it comes to any sort of like things that we need to fix, or things that are energetically attached in our etheric field, auric field, or on us. But we're so hard on ourselves. And then you have a whole community that wants to ostracize someone because they have an attachment, and come in with pitchforks and, flaming torches and be like, you're a horrible person and you're not doing enough to protect yourself. It's bullshit. That person is probably doing a lot, but we all have different situations and circumstances to where shit happens.
Mm-hmm.
And we have to respect that. And I think what with Wunjo it's talking about is also taking the initiative to not just understand our energy, but also allowing ourselves to kind of have this realization that it's not your fault. Mm-hmm. It's also, you have to just see things. I guess it's a shift of perspective of, see things as a lesson. Don't think of you're not doing enough. Maybe it's just a realization where, hey, maybe I need to add something into my arsenal or my daily routine. It doesn't mean that you're a horrible human being and you have to create this whole downtrodden of thought that why you're so terrible, and then tailspin. Like, I see this way too much and I'm so sick of it. I'm so sick of the attitude that people have with, if someone needs help or needs a clearing of anything, it's like, this negativity of people just needing help needs to stop.
Across the board.
I mean, I joined the spiritual community to avoid the judgment and the labels, right? I had enough of that in the religious, we'll leave that alone, but to each their own, wasn't for me. And I'm like, I don't judge, I don't label, I try to stay away from good, bad. There's just different, right? Even when it comes to frequencies, which I work with in my sound healing, like, just because it's a lower, like, that's a fact. 3 is lower than 5. It does not mean it is less. Like, in terms of a human, it's just different. So it's a different vibe. It's a different frequency. It's a different feel. Does 3 want to be 5? It might. We're humans. We put feelings and we make things mean things. And other people make things mean things. And then it's kind of going back to that blurred we were talking about. Is this what I believe about myself, or is it being projected on me? And now I don't know which is my belief and which is society's, and how to separate that. And it does draw up some anger, right? Like protectiveness, going back to the guardian. Like, I want to protect the people from feeling that way and give them the support and
Mm.
place and space to be. Like, it's not, you learn, right? If you burn your hand, you stub your toe, you get stung by a bee. First time I
Right.
got stung by a bee, I smashed it. I thought it was a fly. And I remember my mom running to get mud and my dad yelling at me, like, why would you do that? I think I was 5 or 6, right? So the dichotomy there was, oh, let me fix it. Why would you do that? Right.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So
Yeah. Yeah.
And,
I
go
was just
ahead,
gonna say,
Molly.
like, well, I mean, for those listening, I would say, like, the action then is really to just get good with yourself and figure out what you are feeling. And when you feel like things are getting convoluted, take a beat and see what methods help you clear out, right? Is it mindfulness? Is it yoga? Is it energy work? Is it whatever, right? Because it might be blurred with other people's stuff. It might be attachments of other things, right? And it also just simply could be emotions that are coming up that you're not initially identifying, but that are kind of wound up with some other things, like money, right? Money brings up all kinds of stuff for people, but it's not necessarily like a pure emotion that you're feeling. It's tied into a lot of other stuff. And so, just give yourself time to kind of work it out, and it'll make you clearer. Like you said, Kiki, it'll make you so much clearer on figuring out, this is the energy I'm feeling of mine, and this is the energy that I'm feeling of someone else's, and same with like the attachment. If you feel like if you are going to be open to attachments, you will feel that difference of like, something feels like it's weighing on me, but it's not there. Like I said at the beginning of this, right? I'm like, nothing's come up in my life that has made me feel like I'm like energetically sluggish, but I am, And so last night, Kale and I had a session where we were clearing each other on different things. And one of, I think, what was so pertinent that Adara, your guide, said was, we were talking about attachments, and she just said attachments, or what's the word you were using before, Kale? Let's say attachments. But so what she had said was like, it just happens naturally, like it does in your life. And when she said that, it made me think of like, I do like pest control, but I still have like issues with ants, right? And it's like, it's not that I did anything wrong. It's not like I'm morally ungood. I just had something else happen that is now in my space. And like, it just naturally, organically can happen that way. And like you had said, Kale, it's not something like, it's not that I'm not setting up the right protections, right? It's not that I'm not, working hard for it. They just sometimes happen. And so because of that, and like you said, because we can't be perfectionists about keeping our energy completely squeaky clean and absolutely unencumbered by other people, you just have to figure out when you feel that way and how to handle it. So
Yeah. Do you want to pull your card, Molly?
your turn.
I had used some other decks before, but I'm going to use my old trusty. So I use the Animal Spirit deck, Wild Unknown. It is my favorite deck to use for quick reads usually. So when I do events, I use these, and I've been using this specific deck for like 11 years. That just came out. Hold on, I'm gonna give it a little bit of time because I didn't set intention about who I'm reading for. All right, so we want a message for the collective post Eclipse.
Yeah.
What should we focus on? So here's what I'm thinking. I want to do a 3-card pull, and don't worry because they each have just 3 adjectives, so they're not too intense. Yeah. And what I want to do is path, obstacle, and bridge. So this is going to be a new pull. I haven't done this before. I was just thinking about it because I often do path and obstacle. And a lot of times we kind of need ways to remove the obstacle. So I want to do path to kind of help us get from where we are now to where we're going to go. What is the obstacle that is blocking our way? And then what is the bridge that helps us over that obstacle? Cool?
I love it. Yeah. Let's go.
Let's go.
Let's go.
A little lower, just so that you can see. All right. And if you all watching are new to cards, I highly recommend this deck. It's a really good one for beginners and advanced. Okay. All right. For the collective, what are we feeling? All right. Hold on, let me actually ground. Oh, my grounding stone just broke. Well, isn't that interesting? It's put some work in. It has put some work in. That's okay. That's okay. Rocks break. All right. Also, I was a little too rough with it. There we go. Okay, so path for the collective. And stay with me, folks, because I just need to feel those vibrations. I love it. All right, so we're starting with horse. So our path, you guys will like this. So the path is horse, and horse is an earth card, grounded energy, and it specifically means freedom, expansive energy, and force. So that is where we are going through this whole process. That's the goal. That's the end goal for us. So let's see what is blocking our freedom, our expansive energy, and our force. Oh, my ears clogging and ringing. Hello. Hello, everybody. Hello, all the friends here. Hang tight. I don't think I even did readings for the two of you, did I? I think I just did energy work. Right? We haven't done readings together?
I don't think so.
Okay, there we go. I thought it was this one. Interesting. Okay, so this is our obstacle, which is crocodile. So for the crocodile, what does that mean for you, Kale?
Oh, wait, continue.
Okay. So crocodile is not a bad card at all. It means resting, cooling, and collecting energy, and it's a water card. So typically this kind of means especially related to water. Water cards are related to our emotions, relationships, creativity, and our flow. This resting, cooling, collecting energy is actually our blocker. So if where we're trying to go is freedom, expansive energy, and force, and what's blocking us is resting, cooling, collecting energy, this is telling us that one, we need some emotional release to get rid of the excess water that is blocking us. Okay, kind of think of it as like your body should have energy and water flowing, and it's sort of blocked up. So your kind of resting, cooling, collecting energy is not helping us right now. So we need action. So action is sort of like how we'll remove this obstacle, but that's the obstacle in our place right now, or in our way. Do you want to share more, or you want me to pull the bridge first?
You can pull the bridge.
Okay. All right, and then the bridge for us is this little hidden guy. Hold on. No. Yes. Hold on. Okay. Okay, this one. Oh, we love it. Okay. Path forward, snake. So, one of my favorite.
Horus.
Mhm. Mhm. Yes, indeed. So, yeah, so the snake eating its own tail, very impactful image. And the snake specifically, this is an earth card. So again, much like the path that we want to go down, this is an earth card. So that is going to be how we're going to get to that path. And the snake specifically means guardian of magic and creativity. Guardian of magic and creativity. So what this means is that one, our path forward is grounding, earth grounding. So this is going out, putting your feet in grass. This is sometimes taking a bath to allow your energy to recalibrate, going out into nature, allowing sun into the eyes, all of those things, whatever grounding work you like to do, eating root vegetables, yoga, all of that. Think of the root chakra area. Think belly button to knees. How can we release any sort of energy trapped within that space? Guardian of magic and creativity. So not only is it just grounding, but there's also something to be said about getting to this path of force, freedom, and expansion means spending time with yourself solo, doing things that are both creative and spiritual or magic in whatever way that looks for you. So that could be music or art, right? But creativity, anything that kind of any little thing that is a creative thing that you can do, this is one of the first ways that you can start really getting that energy out of your mind, getting it into the body, allowing your energy to flow from the mind into the body. What that will do is eventually start clearing out, hang tight everybody, the water that is currently blocked. Once that water is released, and again, this is creativity and emotion, so we want to pay attention to those things, you will feel that freedom and expansive energy of the horse. So that is our goal. Ground, ground, ground. Allow for magic, allow for creativity, allow for some downtime just for yourselves. Recognize that it's not so, sorry, it's hard sometimes, like the reverse of whatever. Recognize that this is also very much a message of don't just kind of rest and collect energy right now. You're allowed to kind of do these things, but very quickly, this will shift this. And so you will have the action that you need to get to this. Okay? Cool.
Spot on.
And there's your reading. Okay. I love doing readings. Okay, so tell me what you were laughing about for the crocodile.
So like, you know how everyone talks about reptilians?
Yes.
I just saw that card and I was like, oh, block. Of course. But I mean, I actually worked with crocodile species and handling them and working with them. So it's funny. I see that card and I'm just like, okay. It's just the funny thing. I'm like, how
Yeah.
true? I know that's not the context of the card, but I just laugh. I'm like, oh, reptile.
But if we were to kind of blend it, right, though, so like the concept of reptilian beings, crocodile-like beings, there is a concept that there is like a lower vibration, right? And so this resting, cooling, collecting energy is relaxed energy. That's lower vibrational energy versus action energy and force, So like there is something to be said along that connection there for sure. And for those listening, listen, not one race of beings is bad, right? So
exactly. Yeah, exactly. It's funny too. And I think we talked about this last time where it's like, we're so apt to just be like, oh, well, this subspecies or this faction is bad. It's like,
no,
that's not how it is.
No, exactly. Not all humans are bad, not all whatever, right? Like we as humans just like to put things into specifically a binary. And so, sorry friends, life is not like that. Energy is not like that. The universe is not like that. So no. So that's our reading. So let's get grounded. That's the way that we're going to do it. And specifically creativity. I have so many readings where encouraging someone to just do something little creative is like the homework. And so there's so much that one gets out of that process. You release the stress in your mind, you release stress in your body, you really kind of become present. You also start flowing. You have universal flow then going through you when you're doing creative stuff. So do stuff with your hands, go out into nature. It'll help.
I love it. So now that we got those readings out of the way, do we want to just jump into dragons, or do we need to tap back into mythology here? Kiki, are you on Team Dragon right now?
Oh, I'm on Team Dragon.
Yes.
Let's go.
Let's go.
Let's go.
Oh my gosh. Yo.
So can I ask, how did you connect in with your water dragon?
It was during my Dragon Reiki training. There was a meditation, and not everybody connects with their dragon. Not all were present. Like, I still don't know my dragon's name yet. But we had gone through the different types for this training. I know there are so many different Dragon Reiki trainings out there, but this was focused on the elemental dragons. And so earth, air, fire, water, ether. And we talked about the golden dragons, which are really rare. And actually my Reiki master has a golden dragon. That's like her protective dragon. And it was such a cool experience. Like, I'm going through this dark cave. There are all types of images and languages on the wall I couldn't understand, but just it felt like I'd been there before. And then there was this, it just reminded me of Smaug when the Hobbit's going in and like you've got the dragon wrapped out on his gold pile, but there was no gold. He was just in this cave kind of chilling. And it iridescent skin. So it was like purple and blue. So when we came out of the meditation, I remember saying, can they be both? Because mine's like more purple and they can have up to 4 elements and 2 be dominant. And I was like, well, mine definitely has like parents that are fire and water. And then I got to ride my dragon and we went in the water and we were swimming with mermen and mermaids and seahorses. And I don't know if it was Atlantis and Lumeria, but we definitely went to an underwater city and it was so much fun. And
cool. Wow.
Since then, my dragon has been with me and goes with me into the Akashic records. They're with me when I do readings. I meditate, pops in, kind of always on my shoulder. And you, I believe, saw my dragon. And then Kimberly, when she was doing light language and activation, she said my dragon is interchangeable with a fairy, which I thought was super interesting because that was a year after I got this deck. And I bought this when I was in Sedona. So it was I was like, foreshadowing. I don't know.
Not totally surprising. You've got such strong fairy energy. Yeah.
Oh, thank you.
That is beautiful. Wow. What an incredible experience. The Dragon Reiki. That's amazing. So, my first time, so I was sharing this with Kale yesterday, last night. So my first time experiencing connecting into a dragon was about 2 years ago. I was going through both the grief journey and the spiritual awakening journey. Lots. And one of the things that was happening as part of the spiritual awakening journey is I was getting certain gifts. And one of those gifts was scrying. And I was starting to see shapes in fire. And it was one of those things where I was starting to see shape. Because I was going through the spiritual awakening while I was going through grief healing. There was a lot of just openness to kind of whatever was happening. Like I was so working through such difficult emotions and healing that I wasn't putting any sort of judgment on these experiences that I was having. And I was getting downloads, I was getting messages for people, I was seeing like faces that later I then saw in photographs from someone and I was like, who's that? And they're like, it's my aunt. And I'm getting all this kind of like psychic opening, but I specifically saw a dragon's face in fire. And I was like, well, that's interesting. And so I kind of just like kept that in my mind for about like a week or two. And then I had my first ever session with a woman who does light language channeling. And she's actually the one who activated my light language via TikTok. I saw her on a video and I was like, that language sounds really familiar. And from that point on, I like started getting activated into it. We had a session and she said that my dragon came through. So she explained what he looked like. He was a Eastern, sort of like a Black Chinese dragon. And I was telling Kale that literally after I had that session, about a day or two later, I hopped on a plane, went to Mexico, stayed at a hotel where they had just freshly painted a mural of a big ass black Eastern dragon on like the side of the hotel. Super crazy, super cool. I was also at that hotel for like a week and a half, so it felt very kismet. But so that was my first connection, and she gave me his name. And since then, here and there, I'll connect in with him, but not super strongly. Then, Kale, may I share?
Yeah, you can. Yeah.
So last night, I was expecting to give Kale a nice little healing session, just a little booster energy clearing for them. And after we did that, they were like, so Molly, it's your turn. And are you ready for your dragon activation? And I was like, what?
I've never done that before. And I was just like, what are we doing? What? I don't know.
Yeah, Kale was in the back seat, Adara was in the passenger, Moo was in the other passenger, and Avarith was the one who helped drive it, right?
Yes.
Okay, your dragon guide. And so I was like, well, listen, if Kale is okay physically handling this, then like I'm welcoming it. And so it's funny, I'm getting a lot of pressure in my skull. So we started the process. They gave me a beautiful activation. And what was bonkers is that at the very end of it, they were like, Kale was specifically, or wait, no, sorry, Avarith was like, the being is directly behind you. And I was like, and I like opened my human eyes and I'm like, and they were like, so I closed my eyes again. And what I super clearly saw, because thankfully I have clairvoyance, so that's a beautiful gift I get to have and get to share. I saw this very spindly, spiny, white dragons. So my Eastern dragon is very smooth, and this one was like covered in almost like porcupine type spikes. It was just like fully covered in all of that. And so I was like, hello, you're not the one from before. So now I have, and then Kale and I, or all of the guides and Kale and I were discussing it. I was like, I think I have two. And they were like, yes, you have two. You have the first one and now you have this one. And then we had a whole conversation and concept of the yin and yang of it and the balance of the strengths of the two that can kind of like, they have strengths in each other's weaknesses in a way. And so that really balances out. And it felt very accurate. Like it just felt very real and true that I have these two things supporting me and guiding me. I feel like I'm a Gemini, so I always feel like I have, you know, kind of like both sides of things happening at the same time. And then what was really beautiful is that this morning, so I was like exhausted. It was beautiful. It was an incredible activation. I was very like out of it last night, and I finally went to sleep. And this morning when I woke up, I wanted to connect in with that dragon, immediately did. And I felt feminine energy. And so it was the first time, and I don't know, Kale, if you picked up on that at all of any sort of gender. I don't know if you guys have genders with your dragons. But I did feel sort of masculine energy with the Black Eastern dragon and very feminine energy with the white spiky dragon. And so I was like, ooh, I like that even more too. You know, I was like, not here to put a binary on things, but I was like, that's surprising to me. It felt kind of motherly in a way. And I was like, I really like that. So, and then last part of it is when the white dragon came through, it made me remember during my Reiki training, I had this thing that they called the holy fire placement. And it's sort of just a ritual where you kind of bring source energy into the body. And because my gifts are all clairvoyance and I see scenes and things play out, I had a whole scene like you were talking about going through a cave. I found myself lakeside, sitting like basking in the sun on a stone, and I was able to jump into the lake, and there was sort of like a white dragon in there, Falcor like, kind of like bigger, slightly fluffier, but we just like played around and did all kinds of stuff. And when I came out of that Reiki training and I came home to my little white poodle mix, I was like, I think that there's a little facet of this dragon that's protecting me through this little dog. And then when the white dragon came through, I was like, oh my gosh, even so, like, I was like, I think that they're the same dragon. They came through in slightly different forms. And now I have a whole second dragon that I'm able to tap into. I'm getting so hot as I'm talking about it. So
see, you guys have these beautiful stories that I'm like, I got high on mushrooms and met my dragon. Like, you have these like fantastic experiences. I'm like,
I was in my dining room on a Wednesday evening talking to my friend and their guides is how I found another dragon. Yeah. So it was just incredible. And so since then it's been a recalibration, and I don't know if you've been noticing, I've been pushing on my temple over here because I now have this like muscle spasm that's happening here because my body is just recalibrating to these higher dimensional, higher vibrations. So it was really beautiful. So thank you, Kale. Thank you, Avara. Thank you, everybody.
yeah, I've never done that before. It's funny because like Moo did a facilitation for someone because he's like, oh, you have a wolf guide. Let me help you bring them in. And I'm like, where is this coming from, buddy? He's like, I've always been able to do this. You just haven't really wanted to. And I'm like,
that's
thanks
cool
for calling me out on that. So it's like, it's so weird because like I always see people that have these amazing gifts of helping with activation. I'm like, that's awesome. Like, good for you. And now I'm like, oh shit.
Yeah.
Oh no.
I've accidentally activated some people. So like it does happen by accident. You know what I mean? You're just holding this higher energy with this sort of like container of information of it, right? And so if they access it, boom, they get it. You know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's funny too, because like a lot of people are always like, top tier question was always, how do I meet my dragon? How do I create this relationship, this bond? Like, what's the process? So like, I know there's people listening and that will listen. So let's go into advice. Like if people want to meet their dragon, let's discuss how that happens, or like what's easy, like how to facilitate that. Because not everyone, they don't have to seek out, initially you don't really have to seek out someone to help you find with the process. Sometimes it just happens. I mean, look at YouTube. There's so many different videos that folks can watch. Like there's ASMR videos of like listening to a dragon sleep. There's different videos of like guided meditations, like, or there's just specific sound baths or sound, I'm trying to find the word, like just videos where you can indulge in sound and open yourself up. It's not a one-stop shop.
No,
Right.
like shamanic journey music I've been listening to a lot lately and different types like Celtic and Norse. Norse I use a lot for dragons. I don't know if it's that like primordial feel to it. It's darker and it shakes things up, but I set strong intentions before I meditate and go in, and you could meditate and go for a walk in nature and meet your dragon. Like you don't have to like close your eyes and sit still. Dragons are always moving. And then once you do connect, make it a point to stay in touch with them, whatever that looks like for you, once a week, once a month, talking to them. That was a big thing for me. The more I worked with my dragon, the more I could sense when they were around, and now they just come in and pop in and help and guide and direct.
Yeah. I will say, so what I've heard and also what I've experienced is that dragons are of such a higher vibration. And so if you are wanting to connect in with yours, part of it is making sure that you as a vessel are clearing out your lower stuff. So that is the heavier emotions, like we talked about before. So it's making sure that you're doing that work too, because if you're sort of like holding on to a lot of, let's say, guilt and fear and sadness, it's going to be really hard for you to meditate and get in connected with them. So like the first things first, take care of the body, take care of the mind, take care of the emotions, and then especially take care of your vessel afterwards, right? So having those emotional releases and then taking care of the vessel. Once you do that, I do think that there's a lot of different ways. And I love the sound healing because throat chakra clearing, because I find that I'm connecting into them through my crown. So if you're doing sound healing, then you're clearing a lot of what's going on in the head and opening up your crown energy for them, or your third eye energy for them. Some other people though would connect into them through the heart and other chakras, right? So it's not necessarily, it's not necessarily through the crown, but I do think that connecting in with dragons is similar to channeling energy, right? And so you do want to make sure that you as a physical vessel who is going to be receiving new information and receiving that connection, that you do the work so that you kind of clear yourself out a little bit so that you can receive that in. So that's my guidance.
I love that. And I think it's not so much about, and I just want to like preface something. It's not about when we talk about the different things we carry or energy or stuff. It's not about, there's no sense of hierarchy here. And what I mean by that is it's not like, oh, you're not at the right vibration. There's always things that we need to like clear out of our systems. It's like, think of a natural detox. There's always some sort of process we need to undergo. It could be multiple times a day. It could be 20 times a day where you just need to check in with yourself and just kind of like shake, like literally just shake off whatever may be like hanging on to you. None of your fault. This is a zoo here. So you're encountering a lot of different energies at all different times. So like, I don't want folks to feel like, oh, well, I can't do it. It's just what you go through. We all need to be able to just like center ourselves, check in with our emotions and let ourselves be open, you know, because I think that's just, it goes on the same tangent of just these ideologies that folks have where it's like, oh, well, you have to be this like X, Y, and Z and hit a label or a hierarchy or be able to, you have to hit X, Y, and Z to be like, it's gatekeeping is what it is.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Like, I'm not ready. I have to do more work. I'm not ready to meet your dragon. Like, you don't have to earn the right to meet your dragon.
Yeah. 100%. The dragons. Yeah. I was telling someone that it's like guardian angels, right? We don't have the concept that you have to like earn your honor, right? To like get your guardian angel. Very similar concept. They are guarding you and I often say that with like things on the spirit side, there's no concept of like time or like us wanting to pick up the phone and like waiting and like they're not around, right? Like they are always there to connect in with us. And it is our clear frequency of intention that connects in with them. That's the phone call. So it's about you clearing your vessel, you getting clear about your intention about what it is that you're wanting to do, and it will happen. You know, so, and I totally agree with you there, and kind of going just to the concept of like frequency, vibration, what's in the body and like the hierarchy and all of that. There's no concept that people are high vibe, stay high vibe, and it's all positive vibes from like this point forward. Like that's just not a concept. Like emotions have their own frequency. I often use the metaphor of like, we're sponges and we just absorb this stuff and we sometimes just got to clear it out. But if you're not going to clear it out, it's staying in your sponge. And so a friend asked me yesterday, I was doing Reiki, and she said, do you think that grief is always in the body? And I was like, I think it's just like any other emotion. We always have the capacity to have grief, but you can also release it out of the body. And it doesn't mean that you don't miss the person, right? But it means that you're not holding that specific emotional frequency within your body, which is a heavier emotion. It's a heavier frequency that's
Very dense
in the body, very dense, and it hurts the heart chakra and it hurts the all kinds of stuff. And so it drags that energy down. And so when you cry and you have that release, or if you're angry and you have a rage release, whatever it is, it clears your energy so that you can receive more stuff in. So just there's no concept of like, I got to do all my clearing and then I'm good to go for the rest of my life. Or like, if I feel freaking envy, right? Like I'm morally slipping as a human. No, you as humans, we feel all of these different emotions. You're supposed to, but you're also supposed to process them. So that's just my speech.
Yes. Kiki, what's your take on all this?
on dragons and being worthy, or like that's a broad question.
Let's just everything. I mean, we can even
Everything.
go on a tangent of toxic positivity at this point too, because there's a lot with all this.
So it's when I think of dragon energy, especially dragon Reiki, it's what I bring in when, like Molly was describing, these denser, these heavier, these thicker emotions. And I'm glad you brought up the amount of work and it never being done, right? We're on a journey. We're never healed, right? And then even if we do feel like we've healed one thing, it's just a layer and something else is underneath, but maybe we can see it clearer, or we see it from a different vantage point or a different perception, or with more compassion, because we're not all stirred up and things have settled, so we can see it more clearly. So when I bring in the dragons for myself and my clients, a lot of times it's really to help burn things down and release. And they feel very cathartic afterwards. Like we're bringing in the fire, and sometimes we'll have writing things down and burning it and asking for the dragon to transmute it for us. And just whatever feels good to you. I work with fire and water. Those seem to be my two. Earth is coming in. I have not been drawn to air as much as an element, but I know we need it to breathe. And those are just the elemental dragons. There are celestial dragons. There are galactic. Molly, it sounds like you have duality dragons. You've got the yin and the yang. You know, there are seraphim. So there are ones that actually have the 6 wings that are angelic, and it goes on and on. So your dragon could be in any dimension, can be any color, and can help you through whatever you're going through if you set the intention and you're open to the possibility.
Yeah. 100%.
That's my belief.
Yeah, absolutely. No, well, and it's what I believe because we've seen it play out, right? Like if people follow that plan, they meet their dragon, right? Like it's like it's you could almost consider it a scientific approach, right? Because it's like we're literally, if you do it, then you meet your dragon, and so therefore it works.
And it could be in stages. Like I met my dragon and I still don't know their name. Right. I have a sense that they could be male, but other times I'm like, maybe they're female. I don't know. And you know what? Doesn't matter. Not really. They're with me.
Yeah.
And when the time is right, maybe that will be revealed. I don't really care because they're with me and we're connected now.
Totally. 100%.
And, I call in ancestors and higher self and inner children in my guide team. And sometimes the dragon is when I say ancestors, dragon's like, what are we doing today? And I'm like, hey, buddy.
I love that.
I have no idea, but thank you for being here. Like, I know they have my back, and that is such an amazing experience. I know we were talking about guides, and I don't officially have one, but I feel like that is my strongest one after my grandmother who came through.
That's beautiful. I do think, in the spiritual world, we often talk about guides or beings coming through, right? But like, it does seem like from a dedicated standpoint, everyone has a dedicated dragon guide, right? And like, on top of that, you might have a crew of other things, right? But I kind of wanted to clarify that too, that like, if you feel like you want to meet a dragon, if you wonder if you have a dragon, everyone has a dedicated dragon guide. And I believe that they can actually be shared. Like 2 people can have the same dragon guide, I believe is what I have like heard or learned about. But from us as an individual human, I don't know. Let me clarify that for me. I'm not sure, but I don't think that I know everyone has a dedicated one, and then you might have other other support systems too, you know, more than just the humans that we've known here.
Mhm.
Yeah, no. Should I just bring a Varth in for this? Because I feel like this is where it's going.
Yes.
Yeah.
Make sure you're grounded.
I know. He's already like, am I allowed? Are we
Okay.
doing this? I'm like, buddy.
All right. I'm
Okay.
getting my
All right. I
getting
gotta figure
my
out what's.
rock.
Ooh,
What
what is that?
is
It's
that?
hematite,
Dragon
but
scale?
it looks like it, but it's hematite. But
Wow.
I picked it because it looked like dragon scale, so it's raw or on the other
Oh,
side. And then
No.
That's amazing.
Yeah, because there's a whole new thing now from like this material called dragon scale, not to be confused with the calcite dragon scale, which it costs an upwards of several $1,000s. But there is a new material that they're calling dragon scale, and it's like in the same area where they've excavated a lot of dinosaur skeletons and remains, but the actual surface, so like the actual soil and the elements there, make it look as if it is reptilian style draconian like skin. And
Cool.
I've seen them more and more popping up. I'm probably going to get one, but I
want one.
holding out for the universe. I'm holding out for the universe because I had the opportunity to get the actual dragon scale calcite for $200, got swiped from underneath my feet, and I'm just stalking Etsy because I'm like, I know it's out there, universe. I'm gonna find it. Like, I know it's out there. I'm gonna find another one because I want that, because the energy from that dragon scale calcite, and it's from a specific mine. It's from the Sweetwater mine in Missouri, but it's like the energy on that is unreal. And I'm like, oh, Daddy needs that for just a little fragment. I just want a little fragment. That's all I want.
Is there a vortex there? I'm trying to. I know Was it Ashland?
So Sweetwater mine is known for some of the best calcite formations. And what happens is the calcite has these different inclusions where it looks like this calcite looks gray, almost dark, almost black, and sometimes green. And the way it forms with the scalahedron is it looks like actual dragon scales with how it creates together.
Whoa.
So yeah, that's been my obsession for the past few weeks, because I was so mad that I did not get that piece. And I'm just like, it'll come back. I'm here for it. It will find its way to me. I'm not worried. If I can find it once, I can find it again.
Yes.
You can manifest that. You can for sure.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
I didn't know that. Listen, the center of the United States has some real interesting stuff going on in it. So, you know, like, and it's also, that's not Appalachia, but anyway, I don't know much about Missouri, but
it's Tornado Alley.
That too.
I have family that lives in Kansas City, Missouri, and it's very flat, and they tell it's Tornado Alley.
Yeah, fascinating. That's cool. I'm gonna look up that stone. Yeah.
It's so rad, but it's so expensive. It's so expensive, but it's fine. I'll find it.
Is it because it's so rare? I mean, is it because of the rarity, or because people can't?
Yeah. Twofold. So what they're seeing with Sweetwater mine in Missouri is it's only this one. They're like, oh, it's the only place that has this. But then of course, like now I think there's a source in Morocco or India where they're finding the same thing. And they're like, it's just kind of blowing this whole initiative out of the water, where it's like, well, scalahedron calcite isn't just Sweetwater mine, but they're going to use Sweetwater mine as it's the epicenter. So you can find it, but they're still not going to call it dragon scale calcite because it's not directly from Sweetwater, because I think they did a trademark on this specific crystal that's coming from the mine. But I have a few leads, so if I find it, I'll put it in our chat, because I have one lead and I got to check it out. But if it is for sure what I think it is, then I'd be like, your Christmas is coming early with getting these dragon scale scalahedron.
That's awesome. I love that you have leads. You're like, I have a guy. I've got someone to talk to.
A guy.
I legit, I just happened to like come across them on a website, and I was like, and I messaged him. I'm like, is this what I think it is? And he's like, actually, yes, but I can't call it that because it's not from Sweetwater. I'm like, I don't care. I give me the shiny.
Yeah, that's cool.
My precious. No.
Oh my gosh. Pretty much.
Yeah.
All right. Let me I got a new piece of so side tangent real quick before I bring Avarth in. So I have an obsession with a crystal called iolite. So it's between that and optical calcite. It's highly debated as to what Norse wayfarers would have used to locate the sun, because you have the pleochroma. I can't remember it. It's a specific thing with iolite that acts like sunglasses. So even in like very overcast skies, you can still find the sun to navigate.
Wow.
So yeah, so I legit have an obsession with iolite, and I just got another palm stone in today. So I'm gonna use that because it's super gemmy. It's called bloodstone iolite. The bloodstone comes from Arusha sunstone. But this is my unhealthy obsession. I probably have about 4 pieces right now. So
Only?
only
What's wrong with you?
Obviously, I'm not doing it.
One of them's like,
I know, and then he's like, "Look, this
Yeah.
is my new one.
That's how
I
I
like chair."
that's awesome.
Next up, he's gonna have his chair, and it's just
Right.
gonna be Adara and like everybody popping in, but he'll be grounded.
Well, I want an iolite scepter, but that will cost over $1,000. But that is my goal. But
Okay. That's a future manifestation. I love that. I love
Okay.
that.
That's great.
I will find it. But sorry, tangent. I'm just like, let me talk about crystals.
Your guy probably knows a guy. It'll all work out.
Yeah.
At this rate, I have faith that I will find it. I always find what I need, so I'm not concerned. I'm like, it'll come. It's fine.
Yeah.
All right, let's bring in the big dragon. This is gonna be fun.
Mm.
Well, that did not take long, did it?
Kale was ready. Hello.
Hi.
Kiki, we have not formally met. My name is Avarth. I am if you want context, would be a Eastern dragon. I work with the light and I work with water as well.
Oh, pleasure to meet you. I love the water.
That is duly noted. So I've heard.
Hi, Avarth.
Well, have you recovered from last night?
I'm working on it, but yes, I think I'm better than I was before.
Yes, I see that your dragons have already worked with you quite a bit.
Mm-hmm. Agreed. Yeah, thank you. Mm-hmm. So I had a question, which was, is it true that everyone has a dedicated dragon, and can dragons be shared? Like, can a dragon have more than one dedicated human that they're supporting?
That is an interesting question. Let me explain it as best as I can. Humans have always had the opportunity to bond with dragons. We were here before this realm created its own distinction from other means, if that makes sense. Our presence has always been here within the realm. Now, when it comes to dragons as guides, as you know them, this will always be that there are more than enough dragons to cater to the needs of the human experience. Now, there is always discussion from what I see and hear within the realms of possibility of understanding that only specific aspects of dragons can connect with individuals, or perhaps that not everyone has a specific guide. To be quite honest, that is false. There are many dragons that can bond with a single individual, and there is always an opportunity to foster a creation as well as a connection when it comes to allowing us to build a rapport, when it comes to the realizations of this notion of shared. Yes, it is true. And that is because with individuals who have shared heart spaces and connections, that the ties between a singular guide can be experienced. Is it common? No, it is not. But there are always possibilities within this realm of what is feasible and the creation and co-creation in working in tandem with guides that are not specific to an individual, if that makes sense.
So people don't have necessarily dedicated guides, but they can always connect in with a dragon if they want to. Is that correct?
An individual will always have dedicated guides.
Okay.
But the notion and the matter of your question is that you, as an individual, can connect and work with Kiki's guides or Wolf's guides. But there may be a guide between you or another that also work in tandem or you share a common connection with. It is not unheard of.
Okay. Thank you.
Hopefully that is answering your question with a succinctness.
Yeah. So we can share guides. It's a little bit more rare, but everyone does have some sort of dedicated dragon that they can connect with.
That is correct.
Okay. Good. I'm glad to hear that. And I feel like people will be glad to hear that too.
Yes, there is many mythos when it comes to guides, which that will only continue to persist, unfortunately. There are more complexities than others do not realize.
Is there anything that we should be aware of or like cautious of in wanting to connect with our dragons?
No, there is nothing that one needs to be cautious of, but perhaps it is setting the intention in any sort of connection that is fostered to ensure that an individual is working with what is actually being presented within the conversation or energetically. It is simply checks and balances.
Beautiful. Kiki, any questions for you?
I was going to say, from your point of view, what would you like someone to do, or what would you recommend if they've never connected with their dragon before? What advice would you give them? I guess it's a better question.
I was going to ask that. That's good.
It is, there are many realizations with that question. Let us start with number one. Intention is number one. This also goes into the aspect of the co-creation of what it is an individual wants to create and foster. It is no different than any sort of intention. The aspect of allowing oneself to be dedicated, or perhaps creating an atmosphere to enable that connection, is imperative as well. It is not just simply desire. It is the realization and the opportunity. I just got kicked out. I think there's a lot going on.
Take your time.
Oh, there's a lot of like my thoughts were so cloudy.
That's
Let me
okay.
tap back in. That's a lot. That was weird. That's not the first time that that's happened. And I'm like overheating too. So it's probably my vessel that's like get the water. Dang, that word. Like, even I can feel like Ivara was like, your vessel is shifting. What is happening? I'm like, I don't know.
More eyelight. No.
Where's that scepter?
Oh.
Yeah.
Said that. Let me tap back in. Like, yeah. Holy cow. There's a lot. Okay. Give me a second. Yeah, I literally got kicked out, and I'm like, I think my body's way overheating, and I'm almost becoming unstable. So, give me a quick second.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. There we go. This vessel is not stable at the moment. Let me recalibrate the energies real quick. Let me begin again with the question. What can be done for connecting with one's dragon? It is all about intent. The intent and the realization that we exist and how we can assist. Second would be the fostering and the creation of space dedicated for any sort of connection to take place. Third is going to be the opportunity and the allowance for the access of energy and the recalibration of oneself to fully allow the newest of energies to assimilate into one's body. There is work that must be taken into consideration for all of this, if that makes sense. It is a process, but it is attainable by any who seek these pursuits.
When you said there needs to be a dedicated, the second point that you had, like a dedicated, either almost like space or process to kind of connect in with them. So is that like having like an altar, or is it like Kiki said, where you can kind of have attention and go walk out into the park? Like, do you need is it better to have a specific physical space in which you go to try and connect to the dragon? Or is that not
Perhaps, perhaps it is best to reiterate in the intention of what I meant is a space where you feel most comfortable to connect. Is that nature? Is that a separate room? Is that, what does that look like?
Mm-hmm.
And how and where do you feel safe in allowing yourself to tap into the energies that persist, as well as what will enable you to feel secure in your own vicinity for what you are seeking to do.
Mm-hmm. Beautiful.
It is a opportunity as well as the realization of where do you feel most at home. Perhaps it is somewhere beyond comfort of four walls, so to speak. It is the environment is what I mean by all of this.
Okay.
What other questions do you have?
Any for you, Kiki? No.
I don't
So,
think so. Covered a lot.
so if I can reiterate, so it's about setting very clear intention about the fact that you want to connect into a dragon, with the idea that there's a realization that you can connect into a dragon. 2, it's about finding a safe space in which you can get into meditation or flow so that you can connect into the dragon. And 3rd, it's about what you want to do together, having a little bit of a reason for creation together. Is that correct?
Yes, that is correct.
Okay. So I feel like that touches on the things that we were talking about before too, which is, if meditation or sort of getting into flow is the way to connect in with dragons, it's a big part of that is ensuring that your physical vessel is ready to receive that. Oh, and as you said, the very last thing is making sure that your body is able to calibrate and receive that information. So
Yes, that is all correct.
okay, we were on the money. That's good. Beautiful.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Ara.
Yes, this vessel is still recalibrating.
Okay. Take your time.
I must let this vessel recover. Oh, fuck. Oh. So I realized, because I was asking of Arth, I'm like, what was going on? Because I felt very dizzy, and I realized my dad is here and he has never heard me channel. And I was like, oh, and like my nerves got shot, and I'm like, oh no. Oh no. And like I had my eyes open because I channeled with my eyes open. I saw him coming out, and I think my nerves just shot.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, and like I internally almost glitched. I know I glitched. Internally I went haywire, and I was like, oh, this is bad.
Mm-hmm. I think it's okay. It'll be okay.
Yeah, no, it's just me being transparent. I'm like, that glitch, and I was like, oh, because my dad is here, and he was literally walking out when I was channeling, and like I went into even with all this going on, my body's like, oh, and we're going into fear mode, and and the fear side is coming out because that was
honestly, I think it's helpful for people that like sort of channel state can kind of be disrupted by distractions and by real life stuff, and that you can also get into it, but like to do it, you have to be a more stable vessel to be able to do it and hold that frequency. So I think this was an interesting thing for people to observe, right? And to see that can happen.
It can, like
our still there in a way, so
some people they leave, they're not there, they literally are shut out. I'm still there. So like that was just interesting because I was like, what is happening? What is going on? And my heart was racing, and like I paused, like I had Avaris pause, and he paused because he's like, what is happening? I'm like, I don't know. And now it makes sense because as soon as I saw my dad, I was like, oh no, you've never seen me do this, and you are religious, and you're gonna not even know what's happening. And I saw his face, and I was like, oh, this is gonna be a discussion for tonight.
Oh, it will be a discussion. That's okay. These are the trials and tribulations that we were talking about. These are the, bringing the people up to speed, identifying who's.
Oh my gosh.
Listen, I think he just closed the door, right? So like he was fine with it,
He closed the door, and then he literally was acting like he was taking a measurement for the floor, and then walked out and drove away.
Drove away?
Yeah. He's probably going to pick up like stuff to work on the house, but I was like, oh, this is not the conversation. Oh.
Yeah. Not everyone is familiar with channeling, but that's okay. It's okay.
Yeah, it just goes to show your humanness is still there. And it's weird. I guess like let's be open and honest. Like I've had almost where there's always been situations where, sometimes in channeling I have to recalibrate. But yeah, that threw me for a loop. I'm like, oh no.
Yeah. I get thrown out of channeling, and kind of when I do the channel clearings, I really get into like a very like heavy meditative state. And if I get distracted, let's say if my dog barks or something, it does bring me out of it. And it is just a little bit of work to get back into it for those, kind of like interested. But, if our conscious is still slightly present, then like our ego, pride, our fears, all of those things that are part of the human experience are going to be present as well. So,
yeah.
Feeling okay?
Embarrassed.
Oh, don't be embarrassed. No.
I mean, like, it's just, look, like, this is.
You can be anything you want to be. You can be embarrassed. Process it.
And it's like I said, I'm not infallible. I'm subject to anything, and that's fine. But I was just like, oh, well, that's convenient that this is going to happen, and that
unusual timing.
It is unusual time. It is what it is. Like, and it just shows, like, we all work differently, and very much my own emotions of like seeing, like being cognizant, because I channel with my eyes open, and seeing my dad and like me being on the back seat. I was like, oh, and that just broke everything down.
Yeah. Listen, we're messy humans and we've got stuff, right? And so if the subconscious channeling energy it's so pure, right? And so it'll just simply get frazzled from our vessel, right? So that's okay. This is normal. Here's what I will share is that one of my more religious parents, I have 4 parents, so I've got 2 parents in there. They've got their spouses. And my stepmom grew up much more religious, and she, shout out to Caroline, has been the one watching all these podcasts, been watching you channel, and we had a really beautiful experience and conversation about it. And I just want to hold space that people who have grown up in a more religious context, not familiar with channeling, or having this context of channeling being something that is not sort of divine, that people can grow and learn from that. And so, sometimes it specifically takes someone in the family to have the conversation, because they're not going to have a conversation with a stranger. So this could be a very healing conversation.
Yeah, I'm sure it is. I'm just like,
it's not going to be avoided. Sure.
No. And I think it's, for me, it's just that egoic, and I'm like, oh, fuck. Like, really? Like,
that's okay.
The human emotions.
Total human emotions.
Yeah.
I think it's important, honestly, for the people watching to see us as fallible humans. You know what I mean? We all got it. We all have things that we have to process. And specifically, like, as someone who is a expert channeler, right? So like what this looks like when you do get jolted, right? And the fact that you can jump back into it just to kind of see that process, I think is important for people to see.
Yeah, well, it's so interesting. And I think we talked about this before, how like there's very much a style of when you go into full trance with channeling, kind of like the old style. And then now where it's like you can integrate there's a different opportunity of directly connecting, rather than having to like change and be analog to like hit that certain, like almost like tuning yourself to see and let whatever in. So I don't know. It's still a learning curve. We still have so much that we need to know and understand. And, and I'm almost tempted to ask Avarith, like, I'm like, can you come through a little differently? Like, I don't know. It will be an interesting conversation to see how that kind of takes place, because I don't know. Man, this is weird. All this weird shit is happening.
Yeah. Well, listen, there's all these shifts, right? Shifts in ourselves, shifts in our dynamics and all of that, right? And so listen, you channeling is a very authentic expression of yourself. So it should be received with respect, honor, and love.
Appreciate that. Yeah, it's a very weird situation just being here, just like.
Yeah. Well, usually you don't have someone just kind of walking around in your house while you're channeling, right? So you're like, oh, hey, like,
yeah.
Flashback to reality. I'm a human being in a body in a house, right? And then suddenly it's also apparent.
Oh.
So there's
Well,
yeah.
And then Avarth was talking about the different places you could connect with your dragon, and he specifically said where you feel safe in 4 walls.
And where you feel safest. Yeah, that's exactly.
And it was right after the door creaked, and I was like, "Is that his dad?" But I didn't want to say anything.
Yeah.
Holy shit! I didn't even realize that.
Yeah. Very on.
Oh man.
Yeah.
Oh.
Which I think, again, kind of expounding upon that, like, if where you are right now, Kale, is where it has always felt safe before, and someone is in this space, like, for those listening, like, recognize that you can have multiple safe spaces, and that, like, it doesn't always have to be the one place that you're doing things. Like, tap into yourself to recognize what feels like a safe and undisturbed space that you can be in, and find yourself in those places.
I didn't even realize he said that. Sorry, I didn't even realize he said that.
I love that he said it doesn't even have to be within the 4 walls, because 100%, so much of my spiritual healing is done outside. So
damn.
Yeah, I tend to create my bubble, and like no matter where I go, I can create it visually, energetically. Like that's my talisman.
Yeah,
if something's happening. No,
I sort of just to share a little bit. So I almost create what has now looked like almost like a Fabergé egg around me. It's sort of this like swirly gold metallic egg around me. And then I also now utilize like Merkaba, the like structure of that, and kind of create like a pillar of light that then like goes out. So it's like kind of where I am similar. It's a bubble, right? It's kind of like wherever I am, I'm bringing that with me, or I can spend a minute just creating that really quickly to create any sort of energetic barrier. I had an interesting conversation with someone earlier who was saying that they don't really believe in creating bubbles or armor or barriers and that kind of thing, because the intention is to like always have your light shine. And I thought it was an interesting point, but in the work that I do, I definitely always see energy armor and shields, and I also help repair them. And I do think that there is something, especially when you're really heavily in the spiritual space, there is something very important about ensuring that you know what your protection rituals are and that you utilize those, because that is how you are literally setting intention for energy to not mess with you. So just those are all my thoughts.
Yeah, no.
Yeah, that's
all those are good.
That's interesting. Yeah. So I've been using my bubble is more, it's made up of more of mirrors and glass, I feel like. So like the good can come in, but the bad is reflected. So like I got the idea from Tyel. He's on TikTok. He does a lot of light language. And he did, so similar to your columns, he talks about a 12D and an 18D and then a bubble of mirrors and he's like, I do that in the daytime before I leave the house. I do it when I get up, even before I get out of bed, and just different things that you can kind of protect your energy. So I feel like I'm still letting my light out through the glass parts, but the mirrors, I mean, we're mirrors to each other, whether I have this up or not, right? Like, and what I need to see, hear, and feel, I'm going to get. But now it's just kind of more of an intentional to the universe. This is what I want. That's what I don't want. I want to be really clear what my filter is.
Yes. Yeah. Oh, what did you just say? And it was like, aha, that I wanted to. That even putting the energy protection or barrier up, you will still receive the energy that you want to within. It's sort of like you're giving a permission pass, right? Like,
Yes.
That is so cool. I love the concept of mirrors and glass, because not only shining your light out, but also having people there, whatever they're kind of putting out to you comes right back to them unless you want to receive it, right? Like I love that. That's very cool. I actually had a session with Tyel. We had a whole thing, and dragons came through and all kinds of stuff. He's a real interesting guy, very high dimensional.
Yes.
Not for the faint of heart, not for the beginners, I would say, but definitely for like the medium and advanced people, for sure. Definitely check them out. Yeah. Yeah. Kale, how you feeling?
Recalibrating. It was funny because when you're talking, I actually went on a tangent yesterday because I pulled Laguz in reverse, and Laguz is water, but also is reflection. And my issue with the community is I hear so many times where people use the excuse, well, I'm just your mirror, but they use it in a negative context where they won't take accountability for all the shit they do, but they'll use the excuse for their behaviors. Well, I'm just your mirror. So I went on a whole tangent on that yesterday.
Oh, like narcissism and gaslighting? No, that's not a thing.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I like on my rune readings, because I did polls for the collective yesterday, and Laguz came up. I'm like, I am so fucking sick of hearing people say, well, I'm just your mirror, when they're acting like they're doing shit and not taking accountability and trying to dissuade that as like, well, I'm just your mirror. It's like, bitch, you're not my mirror. You're not taking accountability for anything that you're doing right now. And you are avoiding any sort of, you're not creating, it's responsibility, accountability. Like you're doing whatever you want with your actions, and you're not holding yourself in tow for what you sow is what you reap, and you're not allowing yourself to reap what you've created. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, so that was my tip.
I love that. But it blows my mind. So they're like, well, I'm your mirror. Well, if I'm your mirror, you're my mirror, then I'm calling you out because you need to be called out. You're calling yourself out. Like, there.
Exactly.
Work that out. Work that out.
Yeah.
It's like, they don't know that we know that they know, but we do.
That's funny. I like that. That's funny.
Yeah.
I haven't had a lot of people say that they are my mirror, which I appreciate. I'm glad.
There's a good context to it. There's a positive aspect, but when it's being utilized in gaslighting, manipulation, control, or belittling, or antagonistic behavior, then no, that's not cute. It's like, you want to be my mirror? I'll be your karma right now, and I'll give you a swift kick to the ass and show you what the fuck you need to stop doing right now.
100%.
Like, bye, Felicia. No.
Yeah, but it's like, it's ridiculous. I feel so like, I got in this community and I had no idea. Like, everyone reads certain books by certain authors. I've read nothing. I've kind of gone on my own path. I have not read a single book of any sort of spirituality. I haven't read Dolores Cannon's book. I haven't read anything Barbara Marciniak or anything. I have a blank slate. So coming into this community and just learning from different pagan origins or Wicca or whatever, and like learning from the earth, learning from animals, it's blown my mind with different concepts of, and it's the same thing. This is supposed to be spiritual, and y'all are out here tearing each other apart and not holding accountability. And I thought we escaped mainstream religion. Now, what are y'all, like we talked about earlier, what are y'all doing?
Yeah. I do think it's such an interesting time to be alive with both technology and our access to information and each other, because it's such a unique time to be able to blend methodologies, ideologies, rituals, process, information. I think doing Reiki training, they were like, so Reiki was really only created in like 1900 or something because this one guy was able to, well, as the concept of Reiki as it is now, because it was held in all of these sort of like ancient, secret, mystic monk groups, right? Where they learned how to do this. And this one guy was able to go to these different secret groups to understand what they were doing, see the similarities, create this new thing. That's only 130 years old. And so like, imagine the power that we have in blending elemental information and cosmic stuff and channeling and all these different things that would have been sequestered or like pigeonholed into either a one specific, group of peoples or a religion or anything like that. And if you have the thirst for knowledge and the interest and the like openness to like learn about all these different things, all you're doing is adding to your tool belt, you know? And so we have such a unique opportunity right now in learning about all the different things within spirituality. And it's not like we go to one church and we learn that specific thing, right? So it's like you're supposed to expand yourself to learn and see what is drawing you into things. That's why people get into herbalism. That's why people get into crystals. That's why people get into whatever, right? And it's like, for me, I'm all about energy, and I'm about energy like frequency and recalibration and understanding the world in that way. But that's just my vibe, right? And so like it's important to pull these things in, just like the guy who created Reiki pulled all these different experiences in to say these are the similar ones that we can repeat and use. Same, right? And so don't culturally appropriate, right? But learn and like, you know, and allow yourself to be open to things. And I don't think you have to learn. I don't think you have to read any books. You know what I mean? Trust in what it is that you're feeling. So that's my soapbox.
Yes. And I wasn't shaking my head at you or anything you were sharing. I was just like, for some man to stand up and say, I created this, when we know we're all energy and human beings have been around for much longer than he has been around. That's what my head shake was for. But love that.
I will say he had a really beautiful story though. And he had a very anyway, feel free y'all to read up on the guy who created Reiki, because what also happened is he sort of sacrificed himself at the very end, and he gave all of his information that he had learned to his wife, and his wife then continued these teachings and creating these small sectors of people who learned Reiki. And then from there on, it just grew. So which is a tragic story, but a little less about fuck the patriarchy, because he was like really nice and there was a sacrifice at the end. So I was like, you know what, he's actually a good guy in my book. But I do think that like the concept of like, you know, I created this brand new thing that's actually very similar to things that have been happening for thousands of years, like, okay, you know, or like hundreds of years probably. Yeah. But yeah, that's been a big part of my own spiritual journey, is just trying to learn as much as I can about all these things to bring them together and like see how these things interplay, right? Like the concept of dragon seems like mythology and seems like a story until you have the concept that we actually live within the third dimension. There are other dimensions, there are higher dimensional things that we do not see within our light spectrum, right? And so it's like, if we're going from a vibrational perspective, then there's now this concept that you can have more things within your physical space that you don't actually see but can interact with. And that's not just a thought concept, that's actual, more like scientific reality, you know? But would you have those if you didn't combine science and this concept of spirituality? I don't know, you know? So learn all the things. Go where
Learn all the things. Yes. So
where your brain wants to go. Learn the stuff. Focus on your own self. Hold yourself accountable.
Yes, like I was talking to Sage about this. Like we are forced to go into some type of school of learning, whether it's homeschooling, public, private, etc. And subjects are dictated for us, and then we graduate. Then we're in charge. So Kayla, you've created your own curriculum, and you get to decide where you're going to draw your knowledge and what feels true to you. It is your life curriculum. And with that experience and what you've pieced together is how you've built your wisdom and your expertise. So don't take away from that because you haven't read a book.
100%.
No, I fully agree. It's just funny because I feel like a lot of it's almost expected to have read like Dolores Cannon. I feel like it is very much expected that you've read some sort. I haven't either. I've never picked up her book. There's nothing wrong with that, but it's just interesting how I feel like a lot of these concepts that we cleave onto, or individuals or folks cleave onto. Yeah, that's great. If you read a book, get activations, awesome. I'm not saying it's a bad thing. I think it's just interesting where in spirituality, some of us haven't really picked up books, and it's just our curriculum of what we've chosen or how we interact and using our magic or working in a different inherent way that's uniquely ours is just the way that we operate. And I think that we forget about that the biggest takeaway with magic is it is your craft. You create the curriculum, like you said. You create your own processes. You create your own ways of connection, divination, of creating spells, whatever that looks like. But perhaps we've gotten into a habit of creating these prerequisites of what you should do or what you should read and all this. It's like, I'm grateful that people are publishing their information and their truths and their experiences, but focus on what you're supposed to learn. You don't have to have the answers from, if someone's experience and what they write can fill in the blanks for you, that's fantastic. But there's curriculum that perhaps an individual has to go through and expound on and learn and then be able to share, because that's the whole part of the human experience. We all have a piece of the puzzle.
Yeah. And to be teachers and students continuously.
Yes.
Yeah.
Amen.
I totally agree. And I think that I often see, sorry, I always talk in metaphors, but it's not going to stop anytime soon. I often think of like the spiritual journey and like the spirituality space as akin to art, where it's like there's no right way to do it and there's no right way to get into it and there's no right way to like appreciate it and to then express yourself in it. Like there's just a million different ways it can be done plus more. And so I got into Dolores Cannon because I was going through the grief journey, but the grief journey isn't the only way that people get into the spiritual awakening process, right? And so for me, I got into Dolores Cannon because I was sort of like, if we all came here and we could all just leave at any second, what the fuck are we supposed to be doing here, right? Like, what are we supposed to be doing with our time and why are we here? And more importantly, why the fuck am I here and what the fuck am I doing with my time, right? And like, how am I supposed to be helping other people and helping myself? She was what connected in with me, but I would highly encourage people, like, if you're not feeling super connected into like one book or thought, process or whatever, mind-body connection, nature connection, like keep it simple. You know what I mean? Like it literally doesn't have to be anything more than that. And you're going to have the most profound experiences just doing that. So I highly encourage that, and then if you then go outside of that to understand, let's say crystals, right? Or energy or the Akashic fields, things that are not actually in the physical space that for you to like grab onto, great. Add all of those to your tool belt, right? But starting with just self and also like what you said, feeling what feels right in your own personal curriculum. What are the things that you're drawn to? Don't be forced. Allow it to flow. No force, just flow. Yeah.
And to add on, we all interpret and absorb information differently. Like I love to read and I'm a note taker, so I love books. Interestingly enough, I think I've only read one or two like that I would call spiritual ones, and Sage recommended the Akashic Records and I read through that and I was like, this is cool, but I want more.
Yeah.
And then I started getting into YouTube or podcasts or even like short TikToks or YouTube shorts. So like you have the auditory learners that they process it by hearing, and you have the visual learners that like to see it and be entertained because that's how their brain integrates it and absorbs it. So like you brought up technology, we're in such a place where you don't need to rely just on books, and nothing is gate kept with a lot of the videos anymore. Whereas it used to be, and you had to be a certain hierarchy or going far back, you had to be male or you had to be clergy and right. And they were controlling the narrative. So you have the sky's the limit.
Yeah. Yeah.
You're only limited by yourself. So go to Google, go to YouTube, plug in your questions, get those answers, like follow that rabbit hole. It can be super fun. Alice had a great time.
Totally. 100%.
Yeah. That's my 2 cents.
Agreed. Kayla, are you good, or is someone else coming through?
I'm just trying to recalibrate, I think.
Okay.
So there's always individuals coming through. I mean, there's a lot of time that they're not, like we talked about last night of that, what you picked up on. I won't fully disclose that, but yeah, I'm good. I think I'm just just a little shell shocked with getting kicked out like that. I'm still processing it, I think, in the most transparency way.
Yeah. Well, we can finish up here and do a little energy booster to you afterwards if you want.
That sounds good. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I may need that. And I don't know. It's just an interesting thing we never really fully plan what we're going to talk about. It just creates its own tangents and happenstance. But I don't know. I think I'll be quite honest. I think that took a little dig at me, like having that happen. I was like, So
Yeah.
I can understand the energetic displacement you might be feeling from it, and also just all the stuff tied in with human being, parent, all that, so
yeah,
yeah, I get that. Yeah, we'll support you through
yeah.
it.
I appreciate it. Well, we've hit 2 hours. I think we should
Yeah.
definitely. I think we should wrap this up.
Okay, guys. No.
Do our we'll do our send off, and then we'll do our thing on the sidelines behind the curtains. Well, we'll do the send off, which is on the Feral Lore side, which is you are loved, you matter, and we're so grateful that you guys stuck with us. If you watch this later, thank you for joining the chaos that ensues every single time this happens.
It's beautiful chaos. Thank you.
All
Lots
right.
of love. Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah, as always. And then what's tomorrow? Tomorrow's Friday, right? I don't even know what day of week it is. I will be back on Feral Lore tomorrow at probably 6 p.m. is a kind of sweet spot that I've noticed where people are available. So I'll be back at 6 doing some small room readings, and I don't know about channeling. Well, I'll sort that out with my feelings and with my dad being here, but we'll see. We're going to probably have a very interesting conversation tonight.
Probably the first of many, so yeah.
Yeah, it's going to be real fascinating.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you, everybody. It'll be all right.
Thank you. Yeah.
It'll be fine. It's fine. All right, but I'll see you. Us three will connect usually a lot throughout the week, but we'll come back to the same time next week.
Sounds good. Or Wednesday, or whenever. Yeah. Thursdays. Yeah. That's good. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. That sounds good. All right. We will catch you guys another time.
Bye, friends.
Bye.